Learning a new language can be very daunting, take courage and lots of time. It can also be very demotivating when you don't seem to make progress. Now this series is all about providing you with the instant language to use, get a reaction, and hopefully learn a thing or two that will stick. And who knows, you might even be inspired to start learning Greek properly.
And when you go on holiday, you just need those few words, phrases, and a bit of slang and you're happy, right? So let's get into it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the My Greek Island podcast, Bitesize Greek series edition with your teachers George Tsunias
And Maria Petrakou. Γεια σου, Yorgo.
Γεια σου Maria.
So what are we learning today?
In today's mini episode, we are following on the theme with transport, but today we are taking the taxi and giving you some tips to look out for when taking a taxi in Greece.
Ooh. So without further ado, let's get in to today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, dedicated to take you, the wanderlust, on a journey through Greece.
There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next?
My Greek Island with your hosts George and Maria.
So today's episode, as we said, is about taking the taxi in Greece, and the word for taxi in Greek is the same as in English, to taxi. To taxi. Now, if you are in a big city or an island that has the ability to book your taxi via an app, we strongly recommend that you stick with us and try and do it the old-fashioned way by flagging down a taxi or going to a taxi rank. Now, if you're looking for a taxi rank, you might want to ask, where is a taxi rank? So you remember from a previous episode, the phrase for saying where is που είναι. So where is the taxi rank is που είναι η piazza. Που είναι η piazza, which I think is an Italian word like the piazza, so that might help you remember. Που είναι η piazza. And when you get to the taxi rank, top tip, is pretty obvious, but you need to go to the taxi at the front of the rank, not at the back, because you might be getting into some troubles. Mightn't they, Maria?
Indeed.
And you don't want to be upsetting the locals.
And I think that piazza, like historically, the majority of the taxi ranks were right next to one of the squares, because there's squares in every neighborhood in Greece, and usually the taxi ranks are located there or thereabouts. So I'm suspecting that, yes, it's the Italian word, but it's probably related to the fact that it's near one of the main squares. But moving on, and maybe that you're not on the taxi rank and you're on the road and you want to hail a cab and you want to ask if they're free. So the way to ask that is effectively you'll be asking if the taxi is free and available. So you will say, ελεύθερο. Ελεύθερο. And of course, there's another way to see if it's available, and that would be if the light is on, and usually it's on the top of the taxi or on the dashboard of the car, but it's not always easy to spot that light, especially during the day and with the sun that you get in Greece.
And once you're in the taxi, you are likely to be going to a very nice location if you're on the island. We're thinking the beach.
Where are we going?
We're going to the beach, obvs.
Amazing.
So you're going to ask them, I want to go to the beach, which would be θέλω να πάω, I want to go to the beach. Στην παραλία, παρακαλώ, please. So in one sentence, θέλω να πάω στην παραλία, παρακαλώ.
Or you could be going back to your hotel. And so you would say, θέλω να πάω στο ξενοδοχείο. I don't know, what should we name the hotel? Γιώργο. Θέλω να πάω στο ξενοδοχείο Γιώργο, παρακαλώ.
I'm sure there's plenty of
Θέλω να πάω.
hotels after my name in Greece, thanks.
Yeah. Θέλω να πάω στο ξενοδοχείο Γιώργο, παρακαλώ.
And now during your journey, you might, often you like to make some small talk with the driver, and they're probably likely to know lots about the area and have the ins and outs of where you go to get, those hidden gems of advice. And if, unlike Maria, if you don't like going to get your nails done to find out the ins and outs of where to go in the town, you could be going to getting that in the taxi. So you might ask them, where would you recommend for food, drinks, or, they might recommend a beach, the holy trinity of a Greek trip, food, drink, and beach. Do you agree, Maria?
I'm still confused about the fact that you brought up my nails, but anyway.
Yeah. Getting your nails done on one of the islands is a really good way to find out where the locals go. Anyway.
Top tip.
Yeah. And so if you want to get a recommendation for food, drink, or the beach, you could ask them, Πού προτείνετε, where do you recommend? Για, for, φαγητό, food, ποτό, drink, or παραλία. So in a sentence altogether, we're going to ask for recommendation for food and the beach. Πού προτείνετε για φαγητό παρακαλώ? Πού προτείνετε για φαγητό παρακαλώ? Do you want to take an example, Maria?
So let's do an example about drink. Πού προτείνετε για ποτό παρακαλώ? Πού προτείνετε για ποτό παρακαλώ? But I mean, it's tricky if you start getting replies and you actually don't understand what the taxi driver's saying, isn't it, George?
Yeah. Your pronunciation could be so good. They might not know.
Yeah. But we have you covered. So you could say, and we mentioned it on the previous bite size as well, you could say the phrase, I don't understand, which is δεν καταλαβαίνω. Δεν καταλαβαίνω. And you could possibly ask them if they speak English, which would be μιλάτε αγγλικά? Μιλάτε αγγλικά?
And finally, as you reach your destination, you might want to ask for the price, although it should be clearly visible on the meter. But we're going to give you the sentence for asking how much something is, which you would have seen in previous episodes, and you can use to ask for the price of things. Πόσο κάνει παρακαλώ? Πόσο κάνει παρακαλώ? And after having paid, you might want to round up for a tip. It's not that expected, but I would say it depends on how you feel. You might want to keep the change, ask them to keep the change and say, okay, we're all good. Εντάξει είμαστε, εντάξει είμαστε, which means, okay, we're all good.
And then on the topic of price, you know that we try to have you covered. So we're going to give you a few tips before we move into the role play. And top tips are, number one, we definitely recommend that you have some cash with you when you plan to get a taxi in Greece. It's not common to have a credit card machine in a taxi yet. So I think that's gradually changing, but I can't vouch 100% for that. So we definitely recommend having cash. If you don't have cash and you have to get a cab and you want to pay by card, definitely recommend asking before you get in to avoid any uncomfortable situations. The next thing is that check the taxi that the taxi has a taximeter and that it's switched on. They're obligated to have the meter switched on, and although it will be an indication of what you need to pay. On just a quick note that on very short trips, because there's a minimum charge, which I'm not exactly sure how much it is. I think it's 3.5 to 4 euros. The taximeter might be slightly less than that, so you might end up paying a bit more. And then lastly, airport. We've given you lots of tips already on how to leave the airport, for example, with the metro. But if you're leaving with a cab and you're going to the city centre, and the city centre, what is marked as the city centre, there you will see that on signs at the airport, and it will be a fixed price. It will be 40 euros if you take it from 5 in the morning until midnight, and 55 euros thereafter. So make sure that you're aware of that and you don't end up paying more. bear in mind that the taxi will still turn on the taximeter because they are obligated to do so.
Exactly. And that one is specifically for Athens only. So if you're in an island or in Thessaloniki or another town, charges will vary. Now, as our bite-sized listening crew has become accustomed to, we do like to do a little role play at the end of each episode, so you can listen to the whole conversation to yourself whilst you're flying to Greece and your phone's on airplane mode, and you've obviously downloaded our episode. And we will do it once with some explanations all the way through, and then the final time we will do it in full Greek. Maria, you are my taxi driver today. Is that okay?
I'm always your driver, Dan.
True, you're always driving in Greece. I don't brave it that often. Okay, let's go.
Kalimera. Good morning.
Kalimera. Elefthero. Good morning. Is the taxi free?
Ναι, βεβαίως. Ελάτε. Yes, of course. Please come in.
Θέλω να πάω στην παραλία, παρακαλώ. I would like to go to the beach, please.
Okay. Πάμε. Okay, let's go.
Πού προτείνετε για ποτό? Where do you recommend going for a drink?
Στο bar Blu-ray. To the bar Blu-ray.
Okay. Ευχαριστώ. Thank you.
Παρακαλώ. Φτάσαμε. You're welcome. We have reached our destination.
Πόσο κάνει, παρακαλώ? How much is it, please?
10 ευρώ. 10 euros.
Ορίστε. Ευχαριστώ. Καλημέρα. Here you are. Thank you. Have a good day.
Γεια σας. Στο καλό. Goodbye. I wish you well.
And now, all the way from the top, in full Greek and no explanations needed, let's go.
Καλημέρα.
Καλημέρα. Ελεύθερο.
Ναι, βεβαίως. Ελάτε.
Θέλω να πάω στην παραλία, παρακαλώ.
Okay. Πάμε.
Πού προτείνετε για ποτό?
Στο bar Blu-ray.
Ευχαριστώ.
Παρακαλώ. Φτάσαμε.
Πόσο κάνει?
10 ευρώ.
Ορίστε, ευχαριστώ. Καλημέρα.
Γεια σας. Στο καλό. Right, my Greek Islanders, this comes to the end of this bite-sized Learning Greek episode. But before we go, what's on the next bite-sized lesson, Yorgo?
So stay tuned, as Bitesize Greek episode 9 will be moving to our favorite place. Our hardcore listeners will know what is coming, but Maria, do you know what the next episode on the Bitesize Greek series might be?
I have a very big suspicion.
What is it?
Πάμε παραλία.
Πάμε παραλία. And we'll leave that for you to see if you can remember it from earlier in the episode.
Amazing. So thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.
Γεια σας. Right, my Greek Islanders, this comes to the end of another episode of this podcast.
Now you know the drill. If you like this episode, share it to share the love with the My Greek Island community, where everyone is welcome. And
don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And maybe give us a little rating from wherever you're listening to us from, so you are notified every time a new episode drops. And if you have any suggestions or requests, get in touch.
And for those of you visiting Greece, don't forget to tag @MyGreekIsland on Instagram for a future feature. Until then, see you later, or as they say in Greek,
Ta leme.